You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. And you know me, right? We start with the Maple start. Of course we do. So kind of like last week, I'm kind of just going to talk about the Canadian stuff for as long as I feel needs to be kind of covered. And then, of course, we'll kind of move into the Premier League stuff, English Premier League that is, where I'm kind of just really going to talk about the European race, because that's really the only thing left that is still yet to be decided ahead of the final day. And then I'll kind of just give you my thoughts of really what I want / hope / think is going to happen on that final day, match day 38. But yeah, before we even get started with all that, I'm kind of going to set aside the Maple start even, which is crazy. So we're getting the Maple second today, because I just want to talk about some cool trophy droughts that have ended this last week-ish. So bear with me, if you will. So over the weekend, a massive congratulations to Crystal Palace. Maybe one of my favorite stories just of this season in general. Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup against Manchester City. Some controversy in the game, of course there was, because there always is when it comes to the English officiating. But regardless of any of that, honestly, genuinely, I don't think many people care, because it's Palace that ended up winning. Dean Henderson potentially maybe could have maybe been sent off for a handball. Obviously he isn't. He, for me, was the man of the match. I thought it was unreal. Made, I'd say, 3 or 4 massive saves in that first half alone for Crystal Palace. Eze showed why he is one of the best players outside the traditional Big Six in England. Outside of his goal, I thought he was just causing Man City problems, and it was a very mature performance from him. Same goes for Mateta, who is one of the players, just straight up one of the players of the season. I thought he was unreal. And then Muniz, the right back on Crystal Palace, he's had a fantastic season, a real breakout season, I would say, and provided the assist. Unlucky to get his goal called back. It was definitely offside. It was just unlucky, because I think his performance deserved a goal. But in the end, his performance got even better than a goal. It got him the official man of the match, as well as, more importantly, the FA Cup trophy. So that's Crystal Palace's first ever trophy. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I watched the game. I was pretty happy for Crystal Palace. That's absolutely sick. All the videos of the Crystal Palace supporters going around online, just enjoying the moment, is really, I think, why we watch this sport. And to me, biasly, I think it's the only sport that offers these moments, honestly. And it was just such a beautiful scene to see these Crystal Palace fans get what they've wanted for so long, just one major trophy. And now they have a chance at more trophies. Next season they will be playing in the Europa League with that qualification from the FA Cup. So that's huge as well. So massive congratulations. If you are listening and happen to be a Crystal Palace fan, I hope you enjoyed that amazing moment. I did, and I wasn't even a Palace fan. And so I can only imagine how Crystal Palace fans felt. So that was pretty friggin' cool. And yeah, just always love seeing an underdog team. And by the way, I think we need to make more of this Crystal Palace run as well. They only conceded 1 goal in the entire FA Cup competition. This wasn't, obviously they were still the underdogs, but this wasn't oh man, they fluked their way to victory. No, these guys were top class throughout the entire competition. So genuinely, that's pretty cool. Another trophy drought, obviously, came in February, January. Newcastle won their first trophy in 70 years, the Carabao Cup over Liverpool. Then, this past week as well, in Italy, Bologna won their first trophy in 51 years over AC Milan, winning the Coppa Italia, which, if you're not familiar, is essentially the FA Cup of Italy. So that's really cool, too. Bologna has been a team that's been on the come up these last couple of years. Last season had an amazing year, got them into Champions League this year. Of course, it wasn't a phenomenal Champions League run, but who would have even thought they would have been there in the first place? And then kind of built on that this year, getting themselves the Coppa Italia, and that's also just kind of like Palace. It's just really cool. You see all the fans and the supporters, like those are proper loyal supporters. They're not just out there, finding a team that's winning a ton of trophies. Like, these guys are proper fans, and I hope that wait was worth it. And once again, I hope that they partied hard. So if you're a Bologna fan as well, who so happens to be listening to this, I hope it was fun for you. Another trophy drought. Go Ahead Eagles in the Eredivisie, I believe, won their first trophy after 93 years. So that's pretty cool as well. Almost 100 years without one. That's pretty sick. And then, of course, our boy Harry Kane winning his first trophy ever in his career, which is also pretty cool. A player that's definitely deserved trophies throughout a majority of his career. I think it's absolutely massive that he did get his hands on that Bundesliga. That's pretty cool for him as well. So with all this being said, let's kind of dive into our Maple start. It's a bit of a long one today because I'm covering a lot of Canadian stuff happened, baby. So let's go back to May 11th. This game happened, I think, the day of when I dropped the last podcast. So it's been about a week since this game. Or what day is it now? It's the 19th. Yeah, literally a week. The Whitecaps and LAFC drew that night. Ali Ahmed provided the assist. They were down 2-0 at a point. But then the Whitecaps came back, made it 2-2, and remain undefeated in the... Oh, no, sorry. They're not undefeated, I don't think. They have that one loss when everyone was gone for the international break, I believe. I think. Oh, gosh. I should know that. Another big news story that kind of dropped, Tejan Buchanan, it doesn't look like we'll be staying on a permanent with Villarreal, which leaves me wondering where he's going to go. I don't think, as much as I would love him to be in the Inter Milan plans, I just don't think he is. They have a lot of competition in those wide areas where Tejan likes to play, and because they're kind of wingbacks, I think it makes it a bit more difficult for him. I know he's played wingback in the past, but for me, I've always seen Tejan Buchanan as a winger. That's just me, though. But when you look at on the left, you have, in my opinion, the best, or at worst, top 3 left backs in the world with DeMarco. And then on the right, you have, once again, a top 3 right back in the world in Denzel Dumfries. That's really hard to break into. Tejan Buchanan, then you're kind of looking, well, where else can he play? Could he do a job as like a secondary striker, playing off of like a Lautaro Martinez? Maybe not. He's never really been a goal scorer. Then, of course, he's not really a central midfielder. He's not really a center back, obviously. So it just kind of leaves you going, okay, well, then what? And then with Villarreal, I think he's gotten unlucky with Villarreal. Right as he was kind of finding his feet, he goes out with a minor ankle injury, and it keeps him out the squad for a little bit, which is less time to impress the coach, less time to impress the guys that would trigger that buy option in the contract. And then he comes back, of course. And yeah, it is a shame, I think, but he is a talented player. I do think he will find somewhere that's pretty decent. I just am curious where he could end up. There is no rumors around him at the moment, and for him, especially coming off of that injury from the Copa America last summer, and then not really playing a whole ton up until like January, February of this year, he needs to play. He needs to go somewhere where he's going to play. And that's what we thought was going to happen with Villarreal, and it started to, and then, of course, minor injury. And it's a shame. But this won't be the last time you hear his name in this Maple start. I'm going to kind of siphon through these now because midweek there was other MLS games where you had Montreal draw with Columbus Crew 1-1. 2 Canadians on the score sheet. Michael Petrasso. Michael Petrasso's brother, Luca Petrasso, scored for Montreal, and Jason Russell-Rowe continued some fine goal scoring form for himself. They drew 1-1. TFC had lost to Cincinnati. There was about 4 people in the crowd, making me go, what the hell is MLS doing. A very sad state of affairs for TFC at the moment. I do hope that one day we'll get to see them back to where they were back in those glory days of like 2015 to 2020. I think we're a long way off of it at the moment, but never say never. In the MLS, things can change real quick, so you never know. I mean, just look at LA Galaxy, one of the best teams in the league last year, won the MLS Cup, and now this year are without a win so far, and we're 14 match days in now. So my point being there, just shows you how quickly things can turn around and change. And then during that same week, Kamal Miller and Maxime Crepeau kept a clean sheet in 0-0 versus Real Salt Lake. Now we're kind of moving into more recent ones. These ones kind of happened over the weekend. Actually, no, not true. Ronan Krat and Juan Quintana will be missing the rest of the season with Pacific, both picking up ACL injuries. That news broke early last week as well, which is a shame. Ronan Krat's been one of my favorite players to watch in the CPL this season so far. So it is a shame for Pacific to lose two pretty big guys while they're already kind of struggling a little bit this season. But, I mean, that, as I always say, it's a shame, but that is sadly the game. No one wants to get injured, but inevitably people do get injured, and that is a shame. So I do wish them both speedy recoveries. They both are very good players, and I think that they will be back stronger and better. But yeah, that is such a blow for obviously the players and the team. But now we're properly moving into this weekend that just passed. Junior Hoylett and Hibs could be Europa League bound as Hoylett grabbed 2 assists in their final match. Of course, with Scotland, it's one of those leagues where you get into the qualification spot, but it's not instant qualification. You have to go through qualification rounds. But Hibs are in those qualification spots for the Europa League, meaning that they will have to play through qualifiers. But still, that's absolutely massive for Hoylett, and Hibs would love to see Hoylett on European nights. Some Canadian men's national team news broke. Jesse Marsh is trying to recruit Tristan Blackman as a dual citizen. I'm not sure how much of a fan of this I am. Tristan Blackman, don't get me wrong, is a very good player. But when we already have a lot of center backs that are young and we're developing, I just don't want it to get in the way of them. You know, we obviously have Cornelius Bombito. Those two are phenomenal. And then, of course, you have, for me, Kamal Miller is our third best center back. Jesse Marsh, I don't think, agrees with that sentiment. But you have Kamal Miller, Joel Waterman. Then you got young guys like Jamie Knight-Labelle, Luc de Fougerolles. Do we need another center back in there? I mean, I guess it's what top teams do. But for me, I just don't see the need at the moment. I really don't. I think we have talented center backs. Do we need to go out recruiting guys that already aren't, they're not in our own backyard, And that's not me going, oh, well, we should never get dual citizens. No. Because I was a fan of us getting Promise David, Daniel Jebison. I was a big fan of that. But yeah, just at the moment, I just don't really see the need for it. I don't want you to be getting in the way of young guys coming up. That like a Luc de Fougerolles, who Jesse Marsh has invested a lot of time in energy in, a Jamie Knight-Labelle, who Jesse Marsh has put a lot of time and effort into. That's just me, though. I know some people may feel differently, but that, once again, nothing against Tristan Blackman. I think he's had a great season. He is a great player. But yeah, that's just kind of my 2 cents on that. More news broke with Jonathan David. He will apparently be making his decision on what club he's going to be playing at within the next 2 to 3 weeks, so really about a month. Let's be honest, we all know how the world of football works. But yeah, I'm very excited to see where he's going to end up. I know Napoli have been the only club, quote-unquote, that have properly offered him anything. But of course, there are a lot of English clubs in for him. I know Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool were at a point. Atletico Madrid, I think, were. I don't know. There's been so many teams in the last 2 years that have been circling around Jonathan David. So honestly, just name any team and I'm sure they've been in for him at one point or another. Let's be honest. But more about a David, but this one of the Promise variety. Promise David could be the Jonathan David replacement, and I think that'd be very funny. I think I've said that in a past podcast, whereas I think it would be very funny if Promise David, having a breakout season in Belgium, then goes to Lille, replacing Jonathan David, thus continuing the David Belgium to David Lille cycle, and I think that'd be really cool. But other teams in for him are Strasbourg in Ligue 1 and Rennes, who, of course, Ismail Kone is playing for at the moment, on loan, of course. As well as there were some unnamed Serie A clubs. So Promise David could also be on the move, like Jonathan David this summer. Over this weekend as well, Alistair Johnston grabbed his 12th assist of the season against St. Johnstone. I am very curious if this could be the summer we see Alistair Johnston leave. This is just me speculating here. I'm just very curious because to me he's one of the best right backs in the world, and I think it's about time he gets his flowers for that. But outside of that, I just wonder who he would go to because no disrespect to Celtic, they are a great club and win everything, but typically guys that come from Celtic don't end up going to a top club these days. And once again, there's no disrespect to him, and I think Alistair Johnston, if he's leaving Celtic, he needs to go be playing for a top club. And don't get me, I think Celtic are a top club, by the way. But yeah, you just kind of look and you go, well, if you're going to leave an already great situation, I think he has to go into even a step up from Celtic, if that makes sense. I think he's got to be going to one of the best clubs in England, Italy, Germany, So I'll be very curious if he ends up leaving. This is, once again, just me speculating, just because I think Alistair Johnston has been a great player for a long time. Another thing happened over the weekend. Ismail Kone scored for Rennes against Marseille, his parent club. A little bit awkward, and Kone's celebrations would indicate to me that he's probably not coming back to Marseille as long as De Zerbi is there. Something must have happened between the two of them. Once again, this is full speculation, so I'm not putting any. This is not like an exclusive Maple Footy scoop or nothing, but something had to have happened between the two of them. Ismail Kone never got really a chance under De Zerbi. Then Ismail Kone scores an absolute beauty. If you haven't seen it, seek it out. It's a great goal. He scores an absolute beauty against Marseille, and he celebrated, It kind of ran towards the coaching staff a little bit. So leads me to believe that maybe, just maybe, something might have happened there. But yeah, this is good for Kone. I think he's finding form at the right time. I would say from a Canadian perspective, I would say coming into the Gold Cup, you want one of your best players to be in some of their best form. Promise David, back to Promise David now. He grabbed a goal off the bench in a 4-0 win against Royal Antwerp. I mean, it's what he does. He's just been scoring like crazy. I really hope he gets minutes in this Gold Cup coming up. I think we're just absolutely stupid if we don't give him minutes. I couldn't believe he didn't get any minutes at the with the CONCACAF Nations League. I think it was absolutely brutal. He should have 100% had minutes there. He didn't. Okay, we cannot make that same mistake again. Play him. If he's not up to snuff, then okay, at least you know. But I have a sneaking suspicion that he is up to it. You don't score over 20 goals in all competitions in a season if you're not, that good. You know what I mean? And you have all these clubs clamoring for your services next season. So yeah, just give him some time in the Gold Cup. Honestly, I fully believe he's earned it. Tini Oluwaseyi, another Canadian striker, grabbed a goal and an assist against St. Louis this past weekend. Kyle Hebert's team, of course, in a 2-1 win. Or 3-1, sorry, it ended up finishing 3-1. But yeah, Tini Oluwaseyi having a very good season as well. And once again, just another player hitting good form right before the Gold Cup. Let's hope he can carry it over for us in the Gold Cup. In Spain, Kyle Larin scored in a defeat for Mallorca, but that was the 7th goal of the season. They lost 2-1. Kyle Larin scoring in the 90th minute. And Tajon Buchanan, we're back to him, baby. Scored the winner against Barca friggin' Lona. Never doubt my goat again. He is him. Give him time. Give him a chance. He's going to grab it, and he's going to be that guy. So, yeah, grab that goal off the bench in the 80th minute. Just, yeah, that's what he does, man. That's what he does. Give him time. Give him a chance, and I have no doubts that he won't knock it out the park. So yeah, whoever gets his services this summer, I think they're getting a proper gem. He is. I honestly believe. I think he's great. In the MLS, a little bit more with some of our Canadian teams. TFC absolutely destroyed Montreal in the 401 derby, 6-1. 6-1. And the only Toronto team this weekend that won by a score of 6-1, that is definitely a shot at the Toronto Maple Leafs, who lost 6-1 if you are a hockey fan. But yeah, 6-1 loss at home for Montreal to their biggest rivals. If that doesn't scream crisis, I don't know what does. And this isn't like, if it was like a TFC team that was in top form, it would still be embarrassing, don't get me wrong. But you would go, okay, like, we caught a top team in top form at the wrong time, and we paid the price. But this is a TFC team that has struggled just as much as Montreal. So it's not really like there's a huge difference here, okay? Now, of course, Joel Waterman was sent off from Montreal pretty early on, but at the time, TFC was already up 1, maybe 2. For sure 1. And yeah, Joel Waterman, I would say, hates playing TFC this season. He, in my opinion, didn't have a great showing against TFC in the Canadian Championship. He did end up leaving with a goal and a penalty shootout win, but he was at fault for a lot of those, for both of those TFC goals on the night. And then, of course, now here gets sent off. Not great, not great, in my opinion. But of course, everyone has a bad day. Joel Waterman, I still think, is a great option off the bench for Team Canada, and is a great story coming out the CPL as well. So I will always kind of hope for his best, because he is a proponent of the CPL and has shown what the CPL can really provide and do for Canadian footballers that need a place to play. And now here he is, I know he's not the captain of Montreal, but he's one of the assistant captains, one of the vice captains. And then, of course, Petrasso grabbed the assist for Montreal. Not ideal. It was not a good day for Montreal. It was a good day for TFC. Federico Bernardeschi grabbed a brace. Theo Corbeanu came off the bench on his birthday, by the way, and he grabbed himself a brace as well. Spicer, and who else got the other goal for TFC? I did not write it down. Let me check real quick. Spicer and Ola Brynhildsen grabbed his first goal of the campaign. So, yeah, they rounded out the scoring for Toronto FC. Yeah, not a good day for Montreal, but a very good day for TFC, at least. So at least one of the Canadian teams had a good day out. Vancouver drew 0-0. Not a whole ton to talk about there, but at least they kept the clean sheet. But yeah, that's really our MLS, boys. So let's kind of talk about this week in the CPL, and then we'll kind of move into the Gold Cup prelim squad that just dropped, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Premier League, hyping up match week 38. So in the CPL, Forge made history. Congratulations to everyone involved. A very hardworking club and group. They got nearly 18,000 people down to Hamilton Stadium for the second annual school day, where they bring a bunch of schools in Hamilton down to watch the game. And I think it's a really cool idea as well. I think all teams in the CPL should implement it, and obviously it's not easy to do, but I really do. I think it's a great opportunity for kids in the area to be able to get to go see a professional soccer game and see what is in their backyard. Kyle Becker kind of put it best. I'm going to paraphrase him a little bit here. I didn't write the quote down, but basically just said, we could have been playing in front of the next CPL star. like one of Canada's next future kids today, and this could have been the game that kind of inspired them to seek out a professional pathway. And I think when you put it like that, I think it's a great idea for all CPL teams to kind of implement this. I think it's a great way to bring the younger community in and together. So just a massive congratulations to everyone at Forge. The game itself ended 2-2 against Atletico Ottawa. Shout out to Ben Payton, who grabbed his first assist of the season. Maple Footy, boy. I was very happy for him and definitely deserved it. I think he's been phenomenal for Forge since he stepped into the starting 11. In my opinion, since he's been the 11, he's been their best player. And I think he's been phenomenal. Atletico Ottawa, of course, still looking like the best team in the league at the moment. They just feel like they have a different level right now to even like Forge, Cavalry, and Halifax, who have been kind of hunting, like chasing Atletico Ottawa. And I obviously, as a Forge supporter, I don't like it. But as a fan of the CPL, I think it's great to see another team kind of come in. I know Atletico Ottawa, since they've been in the league, have historically been up there, especially these last few years. But it's nice to see them really properly making a run at this. And right now they're, 5 points up on second place? So, yeah, I mean, they just made a lot of good moves. And right now, they just look like they can't put a foot wrong. Obviously, at some point they will, because that's just how the league goes. But right now, they just look, I don't want to say unstoppable, but they look quite good. And I'll be very interested to see how their season pans out. Of course, with Canadian Championship, they'll be playing, is it York United? I believe it's York United. And then, of course, just throughout the rest of this season, how they're going to fare. But yeah, once again, congratulations to everyone at Forge. That's absolutely massive. And it was a very good game. So I hope the kids from all the schools were entertained. Valor then, later in the week, grabbed their first win of the season, 2-1 over York. York are still struggling with a lot of things that they have been struggling with all season. Just not seeing it out. They're not seeing it out. And I do think they have talented players. They have a talented staff. I really do rate Eustachio as a head coach, but it's just not working at the moment. They look good in the game, but they just, at the end, they don't win. And it doesn't matter how good you look if you're not winning. And that is always the most important stat. And I have been a big defender of York this season. I do genuinely think that they have looked proper, but they just haven't been able to get to the finish line. And it happened again against Valor. The next game of the weekend was Cavalry versus Pacific. It was a very one-sided affair. Cavalry winning 4-0. I don't have a whole ton to say about it. 2 penalties for Cavalry. Musi and Warshevsky tucked them away. And Musi made his 100th appearance for Cavalry, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, it was a very one-sided affair. And then Vancouver lost 2-0 to Halifax. Halifax has been a very good team this season. Like I said, I lumped them in with Forge and Cavalry as the guys kind of chasing Ottawa at the moment. They've looked like a very good team, honestly. And that kind of wraps up the CPL talk for this one. The Gold Cup prelim was dropped. No real big surprises, really everyone you would expect. It's a 60-man squad that Jesse Marsh is going to whittle down to. How many do you get to take for the Gold Cup? 23 or 25, something like that. So you're going to have to whittle that down. Some names I'd like to see that really weren't involved in the last Canadian call-up. Jane Nelson, I think, is a non-negotiable. I think he has to be there. Nathan Saliba, I think, should be there. He has been a shining star in a not great Montreal side. Kyle Hebert, I will defend this man to death. I think he is great, and I think that we need him. Sam Adekubi, I think, should be there. When healthy, he is a great left back option, especially with no Alphonso Davies. Remember, no Alphonso Davies, ACL. We need a good left back. Sam Adekubi is our best left back, not named Alphonso Davies. I think he has to be there. Some other shouts, I'd give Theo Corbin a chance. I think he's hitting form real well right now. Honestly, genuinely, I would give him a shot. Why not? I was disappointed with the lack of CPL guys on there, but I mean, it was kind of expected. We never really seemed to choose any of them, but some of them I think could be useful, like a Hijab Rapport from Forge, even a Ben Payton. Maybe a little bit biased on that one, but yeah, outside of those guys, those are kind of, like I said, Jaden Nelson, Hebert, Saliba, and Atakubi, I would say, are like the four that I would really like to see who missed out on a call last time. Even a Samuel Piette, I think, has earned it. He offers something different in the midfield, but I don't think he's going to get the call, of course, because Jesse Marsh and even John Herdman never really seemed to want to use him, which is a shame. I think he's a very talented player, and I've always loved Samuel Piette. I think he's phenomenal. But with all that kind of being said, about half an hour of talking about Canadian footy, let's talk a little bit about some English footy. So, kind of like last week, I will be talking about the guys that are chasing European footy, because I don't really see much point in me going, well, these three teams are relegated and Liverpool won the league. We know that. So let's move on here. Of course, I am recording this before Manchester City play, because of course they played the FA Cup final on the weekend. So by the time this goes up, City will be playing on that day later in the day. They played Bournemouth. Right now, City is sitting on 65 points in 6th place. So a win would take them, of course, into the top 5. It would actually take them into 3rd place, and it wouldn't guarantee them, though. It would not guarantee them Champions League football. So everything is coming down to the final day, regardless of the Man City result, win, lose, or draw. So let's kind of look at the teams that are still vying for those spots. Arsenal beat Newcastle. Newcastle, of course, one of the teams that are vying for that spot. Arsenal has now mathematically clinched a Champions League spot, but we all kind of knew that it was going to happen. They've been perennial 2nd place for the last 3 seasons. So, yes, that is me taking a shot. But we figured that they would. I've been saying that they've pretty much been guaranteed. And Newcastle, of course, this does throw a little bit of, I don't want to say doubt, because it's still in their hands. In all fairness, it's in really all these clubs' hands, even Forest, who are sitting in 7th, because they play Chelsea on the last day of the season. This is literally in every single club's hands, really. Of course, there are results on the final day for each team that if they say a Chelsea doesn't get a desired result that they would want, brackets a win, there are ways that they could still get into Champions League. Of course, that's pending other results go their way on the day, but I'm just saying that this is still in literally every club's hands. It genuinely is. So yeah, Newcastle fumbled it against Arsenal. Fumbled it. I think this is a massive opportunity for Newcastle to not, of course, it wouldn't mathematically, I don't think, have guaranteed them, but I think it would have put them in a prettier position than right now. They're, of course, tied on points with about 12 different teams at the moment. Of course, that's an exaggeration, but they're tied on points with a good few teams that are all chasing Champions League. I think that a win here would have alleviated a little bit of stress going to the final day. Of course, there would still be that stress and that nugget of doubt that they will not get that qualification. But a win against Arsenal, I think, would have done them the world of good. Of course, also getting a win against Chelsea the week before, I think that does them good just mentally. But now they have to take it down to the wire where they play Everton, and Everton are no slouch. Like, you would expect Newcastle to get the win, especially because Everton don't have anything to play for on the final day of this season. But we have seen many times where a team has had nothing to play for and ends up costing a team on the final day who has something to play for. Like, look at, what was it, a couple years ago, Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga. They needed a win against a team that, who was it? Was it like Frankfurt or something? It was like a team that they had already secured safety and they weren't fighting for any Europe. Like, they had literally nothing to play for. And they showed up and it drew Borussia Dortmund, preventing them from winning the league title. So my point being here is that you never know what you're going to get on the final day. We all still think I'd say majority of people would still think that Newcastle are going to get the win. But you genuinely have no idea because of the unpredictability of it all. And Everton, like I said, they've been a good team since David Moyes has come in. Of course, that kills me to say, being that David Moyes came in to take over from the most beautiful man on earth, Sean Dyche. But I digress. But yeah, you would expect Newcastle to get this one, but you really just don't know because you don't know what you're getting on the final day, which is why I think a win over Arsenal after that big win against Chelsea, I think would have done them a world of good. I really do. But we'll move on from Newcastle. Arsenal, of course, have already qualified. I'll talk about Chelsea once again. I'll talk about Chelsea last because I think that they have the most interesting final day. Them and Nottingham Forest, I think, have a very interesting final day set up here because one of them is not making Champions League, I don't think, unless results really go their way. But let's talk about Aston Villa, who sit in 5th at the moment on, you'll never guess it, 66 points. And they're sitting on 66 points as well. Of course, they just beat Tottenham 2-0. I actually think, honestly, I remember a few weeks ago I had said Villa's last 2 games are unpredictable. And of course, everything is unpredictable to a degree. But seeing how bad United are, and this is going to be after a Europa League final, because the Europa League, wow, tongue twister there, Europa League final is being played this Wednesday. That's United's season. That's it. Their season's done after Wednesday. And I know I just said that, Everton don't have anything to play for, but United really won't have anything to play for. They'll be at home, but has that motivated their players at all this season? No, it hasn't. United has 9 points since Amorim came in, like Premier League points. They were on 30 when Ten Hag left, and now they're on 39. Amorim's been in charge for half the season. They haven't beaten a non-relegated side since, Fulham in like January or something. Like, the only teams they've beaten have been Ipswich and was it Leicester? Like, it's bad. Like, this is a historically terrible season, regardless of if they get the Europa League trophy or not. Like, that's a really bad season, guys. Like, that's awful. That's bad. Which is why I'm thinking Aston Villa kind of like they have to win this, and I think it's embarrassing if they don't. Honestly. Just because this Villa team is actually very good. I've really rated this Villa team all season. But if they don't get the win over Manchester United, they have no one to blame but themselves, because I think that would be, it'd be a failure if they don't win against this United team. Of course, it may not be a walk in the park, but really, you would expect Villa to win this game and secure themselves Champions League footy, I would say. And now maybe I'm being a little bit harsh. I don't know. I don't think I am. I would say that I feel like a lot of people would kind of tend to be on my side on that one, that I do think that they need to win this. And if they don't, it's not good. But yeah, I'm kind of just looking at it. I'm just thinking, yeah, they're probably going to get Champions League spots. So yeah, I really, unless they absolutely bottle this, I really don't see Villa missing out on Champions League. So now we'll kind of move into what I think is probably the most interesting game to watch on the final day, and that is Chelsea and Nottingham Forest. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm saying it because these two teams are both vying for a Champions League spot. It's at home for Nottingham Forest. I think it's going to be interesting. So let's kind of talk about both these teams' most recent match day. So, of course, Forest won against West Ham 2-1. Jared Bowen really being the only thing keeping West Ham respectable this season. He has had a phenomenal season. West Ham themselves, not particularly. But yeah, Nottingham Forest gets a standard 2-1 victory over them. It was wrapped up by halftime? Like, really? It was 1-0 at halftime, 2-0 in the 61st, and then Bowen grabbed a consolation goal in the 86th. But yeah, I mean, Nottingham Forest now will be going back to their home ground where that crowd is gonna be rowdy, and it'll be interesting. I think also, before I do forget, I do just want to shout out the Nottingham Forest team for holding up the Aluani jersey. Class move. And I didn't know this when I recorded the last podcast. I don't think the news had broken about his current medical state. I wish him absolutely nothing but the best recovery and speediest recovery. That is so devastating, and I feel for his family and friends and all of his loved ones and his team. It's terrible. Like, it's awful. And I think it just adds fuel to the fire of why do we let these guys play on during an offside, because it was only a matter of time until someone was going to get injured. And nobody obviously expected an injury to this degree, whereas he was, not in a good state, now is in a medically induced coma. No one was expecting that, of course, and no one wanted that. But I really hope that it does force a league to look at that rule and go, yeah, this is actually actively endangering these people, because they're people first, guys. They're not players. They're not athletes first. He's a person first. So, like I said, I wish him nothing but the absolute best recovery, speediest recovery. And my thoughts, of course, are with his family, who it has to be a very tough time for them. So I hope that he is okay, and that he will be okay. And that's why I said I wanted to mention that before I forgot, because I thought it was classy from his teammates to hold up his jersey after the game in front of I believe it was in front of the away section. So yeah, nothing but the best for him. But we'll kind of move now, segueing into Chelsea, who got a narrow 1-0 win over Manchester United. Was never going to be easy, and that's just because Chelsea just never beats Manchester United. It has nothing to do with Manchester United being good. Not an excuse for me to go, oh man, I can't believe Chelsea didn't destroy these guys. No, Chelsea just never win. I was honestly shocked that they got the win, because I really didn't think they were going to. But Reece James with an absolute moment of magic, providing one of my favorite assists of the season. For Marc Cucurella, who has been Chelsea's top goal scorer in 2025, our left back. But yeah, regardless, Moises Caicedo was out there, and he was playing the best player on the pitch by a country mile. I don't put much stock into these individual awards anymore, like the PFA and all the other ones. But the fact that Moises Caicedo most likely isn't going to make team of the season and didn't even get a player of the season nomination is kind of absolutely absurd to me. But that's just me. But yeah, it was a narrow 1-0 over United. It was a cagey affair. It wasn't the best, for sure. I mean, you think back to the 4-3 at Stamford Bridge last year, and that was an epic encounter. This one was a far cry from that, but in the end, I don't care. Get the wins, Chelsea, please. Just one more win is literally all I'm asking. If you get Champions League, I could give you a shit about the Europa Conference League, honestly. Like, yes, of course I want them to win it, but if you gun to my head, if you ask me, would you rather Chelsea gets a Champions League spot or a Europa Conference League? Champions League. Give me the Champions League spot. It's been too long since we've been out the competition. We need to get back in. And this is why, now going to intertwine Chelsea and Forest here to talk about their final day. This is why I think that game is the one to watch for every team. If you're of course, if you're a fan of whatever team, I understand you're probably going to watch that team, and I don't blame you. But if you don't know what game to watch, it's Forest Chelsea. It may not be a great game. I have no idea. But it's the game to watch. I think it's the one with the most at stake because, of course, yes, you have Newcastle, Villa, City, all vying for Champions League spots as well, but they're not actively playing another team vying for a Champions League spot. Forest and Chelsea are. They're playing each other. And I think it sucks for one of these two teams that they're not going to get Champions League qualification, because regardless of how critical I have been of Chelsea, and I have been critical of them this season, they're still well in this race. And Forest have been one of the teams to watch this season. They came out of nowhere and they're the first ever team in Premier League history to double their points tally from the previous season. Just shows you how much they improved, how good they were this season, how much better they were this season compared to last season. I think it will be a shame that one of these teams is going to miss out on the Champions League, and then you will have a Tottenham or Manchester United who, had their worst ever Premier League seasons, and one of them, because they win the Europa League, is gonna be in the Champions League next season. And of course, that's how the Europa League works. I'm just saying from like a perspective of watching the Premier League, I'm like, how is that fair? But of course, life's not fair, baby, and neither is football. But yeah, I think that this is very interesting. I think that Forest Ground is going to be absolutely like rocking. I think that they're very much going to be not even a 12th man. They're going to be like a 13th man for Nottingham Forest on the day. I think you're going to see what these Chelsea players are made of when it comes to this one, because this is not going to be an easy atmosphere to go into. It's very much going to be a difficult atmosphere to go into. But this is where you really find out where this Chelsea project is at. Can they go into, quote unquote enemy territory, a very raucous enemy territory, and can they get a result worthy of getting them into the Champions League? I'm going to lay it all on the line here. I'm going to say yes, I genuinely do. In my heart, I believe that Chelsea are going to come in, and I genuinely think that whether it's 1-0, 5-4, anything in between, I do believe Chelsea is going to get the win. This is the most important game for Chelsea Football Club since the Champions League final in 2021. This shows where this project is at. This shows who is... I hate this expression. Not because I hate the expression, but I hate it because, I always hate like tying guys to a club. But this shows who is Chelsea and who is not. Are you, with this project, are you a guy that is going to be needed in this project, or are you just going to be a guy collecting a paycheck playing for Chelsea Football Club? And I think we're going to see what this Chelsea team is made of. We've seen all season what Moises Caicedo is made of. We've seen all season what Marc Cucurella is made of. Outside of that, everybody else has been pretty inconsistent for this Chelsea team, whether it's injuries, whether it's just form. Of course, Cole Palmer, in my opinion, was the best player in the league last season. He started this season much where he kind of left off, but since January has really dipped. He's shown glimpses, of course, he has, but we haven't seen that consistent Cole Palmer. Reece James has been stricken with injury for this season a little bit, and when he's been healthy, he's found it hard to get into the 11. Now he's in the 11. I think you gotta see what he's up for. Levi Colwell, I think he's been very good in these last few games. Enzo Fernandez, I think, is an up and down season, but still probably is most consistent as a Chelsea player. We don't have a striker going into this one. That really concerns me. But like I said, I think that you're going to see what these guys are made of. I really do. And for Nottingham Forest, I think the same goes for them. Really, I think you're going to see what they're made of, because this is the biggest game in Nottingham Forest's history since, I don't know, and at least in my lifetime, I'd say it's the biggest one that I can remember. Of course, I know that they've had some historic nights, many moons ago, but outside of like last year when they were fighting relegation, I would say this is their biggest game in a long time. So I think you're gonna see what they're kind of made of too, and I think I know I keep saying it's gonna be a very interesting matchup. I think I'm gonna do all this hype and it's gonna be like a dull 0-0, and neither team's gonna get Champions League, but I do think one of these teams will be leaving with Champions League. So we shall see. I know, like I had said, there are results that say if a Chelsea, Forest, City, Newcastle, or Villa don't get the result they desire, i.e. a win, there are results that could, out of their hands, get them into Champions League. And maybe that's what some of these teams will be relying on, because I find it hard to believe that, of course, obviously, outside of Chelsea and Forest, I find it hard to believe that all these teams will get their win. Newcastle does not have it easy. Manchester City, I do expect City to probably get it, but Aston Villa, I do think that they probably will beat Manchester United, but you still don't know. And then, of course, you have Chelsea and Forest, who one of them or both of them depending on like a draw, could be relying on other results to go their way. And I think this is the most interesting, I think, the top 4 race has been in quite some time, because literally, apart from first and second, top 5 race, everybody has something to play for. So I think it's very, very interesting. So yeah, that kind of brings me to the end of my Prem chat. But I'm not done just yet, because there's a Canadian Championship this week. So let me kind of give you the lowdown on that. So as of recording this tomorrow, but when it drops today, Forge will be playing CF Montreal in Hamilton. I think it'll be interesting to see what Montreal brings and see what Forge can bring. Some injuries potentially in the Forge squad, with some of the guys missing out on the school day match. I don't know, of course. Nothing has been confirmed or nothing. But I find it hard to believe that they sit some of their start players just because that doesn't typically seem to be the Forge way. But Montreal, of course, in bad form. Quite bad form. So I think it'll be an interesting one, just because I think it's going to be quite unpredictable as to what can happen. Of course, Montreal is the MLS team, so the expectation is for them to win. But of course, Forge were the MLS slayers last year. They beat Montreal to advance to the semis, and then they beat TFC in the first leg and lost out to them to go to the finals on away goals. So, really, Forge has shown that they can hang with the quote-unquote big boys, and I think it'll be an interesting matchup. Elsewhere, another CPL team taking on MLS team. Valor takes on Vancouver, and I'm very sorry, Valor fans. Vancouver are just too good. I think this is Vancouver's competition to lose in general. I just think they are just that level above everybody else in this competition. But you never know, upsets can happen, so we'll have to wait and see. And then Wednesday, the 21st of this week, Vancouver FC take on Cavalry. Vancouver, of course, grabbed a point against Cavalry earlier in the CPL season. And remember, these are all 2 legs as well, so it doesn't mean that these guys will go through the next round. It just means that's the first leg of 2. And then on June 11th, this one is far in the future, but it's still a part of this round. Atletico Ottawa will face York, but I'm not really going to cover that one just yet because, of course, it's about 3 weeks away. But yeah, so that's some Canadian footy for you to watch. And we'll end this, as I have ended the last couple of episodes. Let us talk about my CPL predictions for this upcoming match day. So yeah, let's get into that one. Match day 8, starting off with Halifax and Atletico Ottawa on Saturday, May 24th. I think this is going to be a tough one for Halifax, just because Atletico Ottawa are that good. But I think Halifax are gonna give Ottawa their first loss of the season. You heard it here first on Maple Footy. I think Halifax are winning this game, and I'm gonna say I think they win it by a score 2-1. I think it's gonna be close. And yeah, that's what I feel, baby. Then, of course, later in that day, Pacific will take on Forge. I think it's going to be difficult for Pacific. I really do think that those 2 injuries have really big blow for them this season. I'm going to say Forge are going to win this one 3-0. Sorry, Pacific. Then you have York and Vancouver. York is, at some point, they got to get the monkey off their back. And I think it might happen here. I'm going to go 3-1 York. I think it's going to be an emphatic win. And I'm sorry, Vancouver. I've been one of the few that's been backing you this season and saying that you guys could do something here. And then last game of the weekend, Cavalry, Valor. I just think Cavalry have a little bit more than Valor. I'm going to go 2-0 for Cavalry. So that wraps up. Done. Dusted. Over. Episode 77 of the Maple Footy Podcast. So thank you for listening. I do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed, of course. If you didn't, I apologize. But give me another chance, and I'm sure I can win you over. But yeah, that will wrap up this episode of the Maple Footy Podcast. Of course, just a quick heads up for how the next few weeks are going to go. I will, of course, do my Prem recap for match week 38, which will probably end up more so being a season recap because the season will be over. I don't really feel the need to recap that match day because that will kind of just come up in the full-on Premier League 2024-2025 recap. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. But maybe not. We'll see. But I will end up doing a full league recap anyways. It's just a matter of if I do match week 38 or not. Just because the season's over at that point, what more is there to really say at that point? Everything I have to say can be said in a full-on Premier League recap. I will, of course, cover Canada's Gold Cup run. I will continue covering CPL and MLS Canadian teams. And then European finals are coming up. I'm definitely going to do the Champions League. And I might do Europa League and Europa Conference League. It honestly depends on how good those games are, really, honestly. I'll do Champions League because that is the one. And then we'll see with the other two. Like, if they're bad games, I probably won't. So that's kind of how I feel about that. But yeah, and then outside of that, we'll be covering the Gold Cup outside of those competitions. The Gold Cup is coming up. I will be covering that, of course. As far as Canada goes, at least. I won't be covering the whole competition. It'll just be as far as Canada goes. And yeah, thank you once again for listening. It's a bit of a long one today as well. I'm looking down. It's about 55 minutes. So yeah, thank you so much. I do hope you enjoyed. And yeah, keep supporting Canadian soccer, football. And yeah, until next time. Cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.